What's going on? Welcome back to the Ring of Pain. Today, I have a run for you that was very exciting. I learned a lot in this run. However, it is going to be set up a little bit different than usual. So this is a VOD from my stream that I had streamed yesterday. Yesterday from recording this, not yesterday to you seeing this. But anyways, it was a really great game. I learned a lot, and I figured instead of just trashing the recording, I would kind of analyze it and talk about some of the things that I collected from doing this run. So it is a medium difficulty double candle run. And basically I started out the same way as normal. So just trying to make a decision here between which stat is going to be the best for me to begin with. As I said in the beginner video, I like to focus on some defense. Waiting rags, of course, which gives me basically everything I want, speed and defense. And then the bandana kind of does the same with attack. So waiting rags is really an item that I think if you're not using already, you should definitely pay some attention to. Because poison enemies cause so much trouble in the early portion of the game that it really helps, especially if you're speccing into speed, because you can attack those poisonous enemies first. And then since you get the intimidation, you basically have just pseudo poison immunity. Same with the blast shield here. We basically have pseudo explosive resistance. So, you know, obviously that only lasts for a little while, but it's important definitely to highlight. There may be some portion of this game where I kind of just let it play out. Because, you know, I'm not playing it in real time, so not everything I'm going to have comments on. But definitely towards the mid to end, there'll be some things that are definitely important to keep an eye on. So here I use that fire bead for a little bit of damage on the Scrounger because my attack was sort of low. We picked up the axe to give us more speed and attack. If you ever see me flicking between items like that, it's not me just being like indecisive and like spamming for no reason, but I like to see how my stats change upon hovering different items, because I kind of have like a range of values in my mind that I'm comfortable with losing and gaining, so it's important for me to see how my stats are affected when picking up an item. So right there was a good example of pinching yourself in between fire beads, which after playing for as long as I have, I really shouldn't have an issue of anymore. But that really just comes down to positioning, making sure that you're watching what's moving around the room, and always keeping in mind that the next card, if you can't see it, if you step on top, or like if you move to it, it could be a fire hive. So you always got to keep that kind of that healthy fear in mind. Okay, so as you can see in my items here, we have the chainmail and the icebreaker weapon. So we're getting extra defense because we have 2 ice items. Now here I'm trying to decide whether or not volatile crystals is worth picking up because I may want to get rid of my icebreaker at some point. So we would lose the 2 defense that we're getting from our chainmail. So it's only 15 souls, and even if we use the charges, it still sits there as volatile crystals, which I believe will still proc our chainmail. So we pick that up, which guarantees that passive for us. And then we also get the additional damage on frozen creatures because of our icebreaker. So see, in that situation right there, there was a fire bead to my left that I knew on the next move would explode. The monster to my right was not revealed, and it was near a door, which is where fire hives like to kind of sit. So I moved to the left to try to avoid the fire hive, ended up getting hit by the fire bead and froze both. So we've got some really decent stats, especially for medium difficulty on this run. We've got the 12 defense, the 14 speed, and 20 HP. We are kind of going for an attack dump stat build, which I believe is pretty viable. And in this room, So this is a good thing to note. Usually, I just say pick one direction, for patience that is. Pick one direction and just keep going that direction and you'll never get caught in the room. If you notice there, I picked up the first item on the right and then just sprinted to the left side of the room, and you can still make it out of the exit before the patience stone blockers kick you out, or lock you out rather. So just earning some souls here, cleaning out the room. We've got our first blue chest, which at this stage in the game, when I have all white items, with the exception of my purple gloves there, which was kind of a one-off, that's not guaranteed, I'll normally pick up this blue item to kind of jumpstart my mid-game. Again there, I used the damage from that fire hive to destroy the scrounger, because I knew it was going to drop potions for me anyways. We're getting a lot of intimidation procs here. I mean, that was 5 in a row off a 40% chance, which is just crazy to me. We pick up our blue, and we prioritize speed. Oil is really, really good for the early game. I think it said right there it was giving me 5 speed just for having empty inventory slots. And that's another good point of conversation for those items to think about. So any item that gives you stats based on how many items you're missing in your loadout, like in this case we were missing our scroll, book, charm, necklace, mask. So that's 5 items, that's why it was giving us 5 speed. With the exception of the notebook, or the books and the scrolls, you're going to be picking up stats every time you pick up another item anyways, so you don't have to be so scared of losing the stats on your speed for picking up new items, because even if you're not picking up speed directly, you're still picking up other stats, so it's not like it's a total loss. Here, this drifter is like a little too beefy for me, so I just wanted to hop out. I saw the Shrine of Neglect, and I'm like, alright, this is going to be a good run. Shrine of Neglect, in my opinion, you should utilize every single game. Bloodstone, giving you 80% chance to heal for 1 on attack, is just bonkers. The percentage is crazy. The effect is crazy. There's no better, in my opinion, there's no better gem for the majority of situations. Alright, so we know we have some poison beads in here. And here's another situation where I found myself pinched between a blocker and a poison bead, so I used the potions to create space. Space is probably your most valuable resource in this game. With space, you can really waste time for the enemy and also give yourself more time to make more wise decisions. But here, I was just trying to get to the bile bag. I like to use those shuffle cards to get to the bio bags easier, but unfortunately it just kind of put me in a situation where I took some more damage than I really had to. But not a big deal. Level 7, we're at 20 defense, 14 speed, 23 HP with healing. We're sitting very comfortably right now. All sorts of dodge, all sorts of intimidate. It's about now, when I've got a build going like this, where I have, you know, a purple item and a gold item, and I've got some solid lower tier items that I'm like, okay, this is definitely going to be a late game, right? It's going to be, we're going to get into the late game, but it's all a matter of how. How am I going to leverage what I already have? So we pick up the Plague Book, which at this point in the run hadn't quite occurred to me what was coming together. Except for the fact that Plague is great when your attack is low. You need that indirect damage, and the cooldown on it is so quick that you can get multiple plagues off on the same enemy even if you're not hitting them for a whole lot. And our defense was so high that we didn't have to be too worried about taking the extra damage. So here I'm trying to make a decision as well. I'm thinking about what item I want to use my salvage on. However, I was actually mistaken that you could use it on an item. I'm thinking of Soulcraft, which destroys an item that you have equipped and gives you the souls, whereas the current item that I have, Salvage, actually destroys either an item in the room or a chest. So I try to get rid of it to grab the hex to deal with the drifter, but then I realize I don't know, like I can't use it on anything. So I use it on the hex so that the drifter is now next to me. And then I decide to poison him with the poison hive because I can double that up with plague. Because plague adds poison, then doubles it. And I knew I had another potion in the room. So that really just came down to, you know, having a little bit of foresight, knowing what you have at your disposal, and working on your positioning to, you know, put you in the most advantageous position possible. So checking out the other rooms here. I feel pretty confident about instability. I have high HP, high defense, decent speed. I have plague, so if there's any large enemies in here, I can take them down, including the Shrieker himself. I kind of forget here that I have Intimidate Poison Creature on attack from our Waiting Rags, but it's not really a big deal. That kind of reoccurs to me a little bit later in the dungeon here. Again, I'm just most worried about enemies that move first, because obviously I don't have full control over where their position is inside the dungeon. And right about now, I remember, wait a minute, I can just attack these pretty freely because of my Waiting Rags. Excuse me. So again, this is a perfect situation. We're only hitting him for one, but we have such low cooldown on our book that we can keep applying it, and we have the healing on each hit, which 80% is, I mean, it feels like 100. It never feels like you're missing out on a large amount of healing from Bloodstone. So we, for the vast majority, take just about this whole room out with our Plague Book, and it's almost always at our disposal. So now we have nothing but treasure and stat boosts in the room, pushing up that speed a little bit. I leave some of the potions behind just in case, say I pick up a purple item and it's a Restrained Heart or something that hurts me. We pick up Bronze Leaf because it gives us dodge and crit chance, which we're up to 40% dodge now. And we have 24% crit chance, which isn't too bad. Smoke gives us all of the stats we want, defense and speed. So now we're plus 20 speed and defense at room 9. We have 40% chance to intimidate upon attack. We have 42% chance to dodge on attack. We have crazy high defense, so lots of opportunities to parry. And if we pass an enemy and we fail our 11% stealth or our dodge or our parry, we still have the chance to intimidate on pass because of our smoke necklace. So at this point, I was like, okay, even if I don't get anything crazy going this run, I'm definitely going to feel pretty comfortable with the items that I have. Now I'm basically just looking for one more kind of clinch item to put together, you know, the whole thing. So here I'm using the Bane Fang to cool down my book so that I can kill the explosive enemy without taking damage. And then I'm just going to go ahead and clear him out, grab myself some defense, and see what item we get here. So we pick up the Living Helmet. Again, some more healing. So now we have heal on attack and heal on kill. So plenty of healing. We would like a little bit more HP, but unfortunately that's just not. That wasn't in the cards for us quite yet. We could have grabbed those gloves, but I valued the Intimidate over ensnaring a target. And so now we're down to 0 HP. But as you'll notice, we really don't have any trouble taking out any of these creatures. Creepier Doll, not bad pickup. Gives us some more treasure in each room. And you can see now, every time I attack, if I'm not dodging or, you know, parrying or any of those things, I'm just constantly keeping my HP topped off due to the Bloodstone. So you'll see here I'm at 13, 14, We drop all the way down to 7. No potions in the room. Lots of monsters left. Oop, there's my drink water alarm. So now I'm in a situation where I'm like, okay, well, I know I can poison him. He took my bronze leaf, which wasn't a big deal. But now look at that health. We were at 7. Now we're at 10. 11, 12, 13. We missed one there. Missed another one. 14, 15, up to 18. I mean, it's really crazy, the amount of healing that you get back from Bloodstone. And that makes our health more effective because we don't need to rely on potions or, you know, anything else within the room besides attacking. We don't even need to get kills, even though that gives us an additional bonus to keep ourselves topped off. So we just kind of clear out the rest of the room here, trying to earn enough souls for that gold chest, which we do successfully do, as you can see. And just take him out with the poison, because if he does hit us on the parry chance, then he does quite a bit of damage. And so now we pick up my least favorite item, arguably, in the game, Polearm. So for the longest time, I was a firm believer that Polearm is garbage. As you can see, I was like hovering the switch item there, but I didn't have enough souls. Polearm is so hard to leverage without accidentally killing yourself that I've just never seen any value in it whatsoever. However, Polearm ends up being our key item in this build, and the reason to that is, one, when we pass over an enemy and hit the one next to it, if you watch my book, we're getting the cooldown. So for these moving enemies, I can poison them, move away, move back. Now they want to attack, so they're not going to attack. But I can poison them again because I moved twice and get that cooldown back every 2 turns. So Polearm mixed with any sort of cooldown item is ridiculous, but not by itself. So we do have the crazy cooldown, which feels good, but we still have a relatively high fear of killing an exploder or a fire hive or hitting a spine back that's going to reflect all sorts of damage. Well, I didn't realize this until I think maybe the next room, maybe room 12 or 13. But having one attack makes this combo so potent, because if I skip over an enemy and I hit, let's say, a fire hive, right? The little blobs that have about like 3 to 5 HP, and if you kill them, they explode for anywhere between like 6 and 12 damage on medium. Since I only do 1 HP, or 1 damage, when I skip over an enemy and hit them, it doesn't kill them because my attack is so low. So Polearm loses a lot of its negative attributes right there. And then with Spinebacks reflect a certain amount of damage, I believe, depending on how much damage you do to them. I'm not 100% sure on that. I don't know exactly how the reflect mechanic works yet in the game. But having this low attack definitely kind of saved me there as well. Not to mention, I'm healing on attack anyways, so it'll kind of buffer 1 HP from any damage I do take. And the extra cooldowns we're getting are just so worth it that it doesn't matter. Alright, so we know we have an amalgam growing on the left side, but he hasn't had many opportunities to eat, so I'm not too worried about him. All I need are some enemies to attack. So here I get the cooldown, and then poison him up again, which will add 3 and double it, so 14. And see there, I hit the spine back. I lose 6 HP, but it's not really a big deal. I mean, with 25 HP and the ability to heal, I was totally fine. And here again, there's a fire hive. Normally, if I would have moved with Polearm and hit it, I would have killed it right away and done an additional, what, 12, anywhere between 4 and 12 damage to myself. And so here, we're just going to clear out the last enemy. get our cooldowns back before we leave the room. And now we have a full room of loot to go through. So we're up to 33 speed, which is pretty decent for medium. We want to get the defense up a little bit, get the HP up, get the speed up, just kind of evening out the stats. And then here we actually decide to keep the bronze leaf because we don't really want to give up this super high dodge chance we have on top of every other combat interrupting stat that we have. Nothing we can do there, so we just heal. And now again, we're put in a situation where we have a lot of high HP, high defense targets in front of us, so we can't just attack everything directly, but we can continue to leverage this plague. So between the 5 enemies I just had in front of me, we had 30 HP, 2 20 HPs, so that's 70, plus another 40 HP and a 60 HP. So that's like, what, 170, plus this guy who ended up getting up to, I mean, he consumed some of the other enemies, but he ended up at an 81 HP, doing 13 damage to me per attack. But because of our polearm, we were in our plague, we were able to poison him up, get it cooled down, and take him out pretty easily. So again, clearing the room here, utilizing our plague. So I did just hover there over the spine back and notice that it said 12 damage, so it must be based on the level of the spine back. I think that was a stronger spine back with 48 HP as opposed to whatever the smaller one is, 15 maybe. Alright, so stacked plate we just picked up is also another huge component of what's going to make this build so strong. That gives us plus 1/3 defense. You can see I dropped pretty low HP here, but because of my bloodstone and the fact that I still have the plague procs, we move through those enemies pretty easily. However, now there's another spine back, and I actually make a bit of a mistake here. So there's a bunch of space cards in this room, right? A bunch of cards that create space. We had potions, we had stat upgrades, and I put myself in a spot where I took all those items, reduced all that space, and now I had to be careful which direction I moved because of my polearm. I didn't want to reflect the spine back damage on us. But I kind of recognized that before taking that last stat, so I left it. If we only had the 2 spine backs and the 2 doors left in the room, we potentially could have lost the run for killing ourselves on the spine backs, because we wouldn't have been able to move to a spine back without being able to manipulate what stage it was in, or what defensive stance it was in, I guess you could say. So here we're just going to do the same thing. Again, our waiting rags is just doing all sorts of work for us. We don't have to worry about a single poisonous enemy. We're also just clearing out some of these enemies to get some more souls before taking that gold item, as well as figuring out exactly how we want to handle any of the moving enemies in the room. I like to get them out of the way before going for items, because sometimes, again, those items create space, so you don't always want to get rid of them right away. Nothing too special here. I know I have a Viscid Union to my right. He actually took my waiting rags here, which kind of sucked, because now I lost my intimidation factor on him. But since we only have 1 attack, or 0 attack now, and we only hit all these enemies for 1, we could stack all that poison damage up on that Viscid Union and get our waiting rags back. And at this point, we're nigh untouchable. We've got 35 defense, 27 speed, 10 clarity, which is perfectly fine. There was no real reason to get it too high, and 33 HP, so nothing can really hit us. And as long as we have the ability to move, we really have nothing to be scared of in this room. So we just go around, collect everything else that's available, We do have a key for the other gold box. So I was just reading through that. Could have been pretty good. Dark Aura, I should have tested on this run, but I didn't. I decided to go with the Deflection, which ended up being a fantastic pickup for us, simply due to that parry chance and the stats that it gives. And then we look at Gripping Mantle for a moment. We're like, stats are okay, not really what I'm looking for. Same with these items. Vaulter could be decent. Not really willing to give up the crit and the dodge chance. So we roll once more. Eventually. Oh, one more time, because both those items just suck. I'm thinking about Betrayal, but not really about it. And here we get Channeling Kilt. Healing effects restore double the amount. So up until this point, we've discussed all the strengths of this build. I really don't need to continue to harp on the simple things, or on the things we've already covered. But Channeling Kilt doubles over our Bloodstone and our Living Helmet. So we're healing 4 from each kill, and that's kill by direct attack, not kill by poison. And then we're healing 2 per attack because of Bloodstone. So this is where the build really just started to get out of hand. I was unable to be hit by anything. I had unlimited cooldowns at my disposal with the Plague. And by this point I knew, okay, we're 100% getting to the final room, and unless I royally screw up, there's really nothing too bad that could happen to us, even against the Owl. We also have the Camouflage, so we're completely immune to any of these leaking bile bags. We can go ahead and blow him up with the Plague, give us a little extra damage. Alright, still take out the Bane Fang with the Plague, because we no longer have our pseudo immunity to poisonous creatures since we gave up our Waiting Rags. Waiting Rags, I fully believe, is an item that you can hang on to even into the Owl's room. Poisonous enemies are extremely annoying, and with high speed, you pretty much don't get touched by them. But my thought process also was that there aren't a whole lot of poisonous creatures for the rest of the dungeon. I'm already on room 14. I really, don't think I'm going to have any sort of problems with any of the monsters in these normal rooms up until the final room, so I decided to get switch out. And then I also pick up Ascension, which this just throws our damage over the top. So we were kind of getting carried by our Plague and the cooldown, but now with Ascension and our high HP at 38, I think we do 9 petrify damage per attack, which also procs on our Polearm, while at the same time giving us all the other effects from our Bloodstone, our Living Helmet, our Plague Book. So that was just an overall great pickup for us at the time. If you had played this game in the past and you had used Ascension, you may remember it as reading deals X amount of light damage per X amount of HP that you have, and they basically just switched Petrify, or they switched light damage to Petrify because light was the same exact type of damage as soul damage. There were no differences between the two, so they swapped it out for a new mechanic to make it its own individual item. And I have the Discord to thank for that answer, because I thought I was going crazy because I knew Ascension was in the game, and I was like, I think that item looked different and had a different effect. So here we are deciding if we wanted to go Flail. I decided not to, simply because I didn't want double knockbacks. Or no, not because I didn't want double knockbacks, because I didn't want double damage on my polearm lunges, because that could potentially kill enemies that I wasn't looking to kill. Here was a tough decision for me. I kind of wanted to try Goblet, because even though we lost one of our points of damage for our Ascension boots, the potential stat boosts are great. It gave us some extra defense, so we're sitting at 45 defense with still almost 30 speed. So I felt pretty comfortable picking that up. We have relatively high dodge still, so we have some relatively reliable immunity to poison enemies. And now you can see this petrify damage. Between the petrify and the poison, almost everything in the room is a 2-shot kill. Which for having 0 damage is just ridiculous. I mean, having 0 attack and being able to kill all the trash mobs in a few hits is not something that happens every run. So there you can see, because of these boots, I'm doing a little bit more damage on attack, so I do have to be careful around those explosive enemies. But because we also have channeling kill, you saw my health just shot right back up there between our healing items. So here we're just taking out this Viscid Union. Basically just clearing out the room before the final boss fight. I wanted to make sure that I left this room with my poison on cooldown, or off cooldown I guess I should say, because I didn't want to be caught in a situation where I needed it and couldn't use it. And that's about it. Cleared out the room. We do have a stat bonus we could use. We decided to put it into HP to get 1 more damage proc from our Ascension boots. Because I knew at this point I was going to the Owl, so I wanted to get as much indirect damage as I could out of my build. So we go for the Owl, and it begins. Alright, 500 HP, medium difficulty. And basically my whole game plan here is I want him to be as close as possible to me with enemies around me so that I can abuse him like I did the Amalgam earlier in the game. Because something to notice here is, if you look at the Owl right now, he's got that arrow above him, which means his next action is to move. Now, when we move away, he goes from his attack stance right there, as you saw, back to his movement stance. So in this situation, I accidentally kept killing everything that was next to me, so I couldn't leverage this the way I wanted to. But the whole idea was I wanted to... We have 80% parry chance here, so we land a couple of attacks there. I saw that I was going to take an extra 20, so I knew he was going to scream. So I decided to move away. But basically my whole plan was I want to have an enemy between him and I so that I can keep moving back and forth between the enemy and getting that cooldown on my Plague to just stack up a whole bunch of damage on him. And so here he's trying to move towards me, so I move away. I poison him first, move away. I still have an enemy between us, so I move back, which does more petrify damage, and now he's still poisoned. I can poison him again. Didn't want to move to my right because I was going to hit that explosive bead and kill him. I guess I did it anyways. There's probably more... Yeah, I was going to take more damage if I went to the left. Double up that poison again. Now he's up to 30. Remember that only ticks down 1 HP every time you proc it. Got him up to 60, and that brings him down to his half HP health gate. Fortunately, he spawns a totem right in front of us. I know he's going to do his scream next, as you can see from the little icon above him. So I let him just kill his own totem, which brings him back down right in front of us. He's always vulnerable after destroying one of his totems, so I knew I could abuse this poison again. Already got him up to 14. Got that back, up to 30. Minus 48 on the Petrify. That adds up. That's not like you get plus 60 this time, or you get plus whatever. But we poisoned him up one more time for 60 poison damage, 60 Petrify total damage on him. And that will end the run for us. So, just a little bit of a showcase of some things I learned throughout the course of this run. Let me know if this is not a style that works for this game, in terms of going back and commentating back over a video. Excuse me, over a video that I've already made. But I thought this was a pretty sweet build, and I just wanted to share this with you guys before it was lost forever. So if you did enjoy, please leave a comment, leave a like, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. People have been subscribing here and there, and it's really been great to see. I appreciate the love. I always post at 8 a.m. every single day. You can find it on the Discord if you join the Ring of Pain Discord. I'm thinking about streaming a little bit more since nobody really streams this game. If you'd like to see any of that, you're excited about any of that, please let me know, and we will catch you in the next one. Whoops.